a company does mass layoffs and it gets announced that the employees get to keep their equipment, that is not a feature, that is a bug. And it gets paraded and celebrated as like, look how wonderful this company is. Everybody gets to keep their laptops. Now, of course, the company's probably running an MDM or UEM and has completely wiped that device as part, like you see like the screens, like you can't log in, you have to reinstall the operating system. Company does a victory lap. Like, look how wonderful we are. Yeah, we did these layoffs and they were really sad and bad, but we let everybody keep all their gear. So we're great. Wonderful. Pat on the back. Look, we gave everybody their 1 or 2 year old MacBooks and we should be applauded, right? And a lot of times you see media fall for this trap and you see, that become kind of the byline. Oh, look, they're so amazing. They laid off 1,000 people, but they let everybody keep their laptops. Like, they're so wonderful. The reality of that situation, it's a bug, not a feature, right? What do I mean by that? That company has no process or ability to take and ask for 1,000 people or whatever the size of that RIF was to ship their laptop back to them, for them to intake it, to evaluate it, to certify it, to take and do something with it, to reuse it, to redeploy it back into their fleet and give it to other employees, to cycle through it, or whatever it is, even to e-waste it or to donate it to charity or in schools. Like, they have no mechanism. There's no ability for them. The cost to the company of taking and reclaiming that gear and reusing that gear, it's not worth it. So what happens instead? They tell everybody, you get to keep your stuff. Yay, we're so wonderful. What gets presented on the surface isn't necessarily the reality as you start scratching a few things off. And I will tell you that this is becoming a pretty, you can tell the maturity of a business out at this point by how they deal with their equipment and their equipment cycles and their IT assets. And in a lot of cases, most companies have just figured out, like, hey, when we buy something, it's just deployed and it's gone. If it's out there in the field, it's just never coming back. And it gets associated into onboarding costs when they hire. It fires off a trigger where they have an assumed, there should be an assumed life cycle with that gear, right? Like, we bought you a laptop, it should last X years, and then you go buy another one. I'll tell you that some businesses, you'd see this handled where they don't even buy the equipment. They just give the person a credit. Like, hey, here's $2,000. Go buy whatever you want. Use your existing box. We don't care. Which introduces a whole other complications because you start talking about corporate-owned data and how you manage corporate data. How do you impose policies if it's an employee device? It gets really interesting. NIST actually has a standard, really deals with cell phones more than PCs around. It's called COPE, corporate-owned, personally enabled devices. How do you, you can tell as an IT team, you can tell your employees, hey, don't put anything personal in this box because we're going to delete it at some point. And then you find out, like, people just use their work equipment as their personal equipment. And it's a little crazy, but it makes sense because the work equipment's probably faster, newer, better, and they have to carry it all the time anyway. So why not just put all your family photos from your, vacation with your children on your work device? And then you find out that the company has deleted the hard drive in the middle of the night and you've lost all your photos of your kids. It's happened in the past, it'll happen in the future, it'll happen all the time. So don't believe the press release. It's not necessarily as good as they want you to believe it is.